Welcome everybody to the latest PlanWorks Power Hour, and thank you for your patience. You might have come along to one before, and whether this is your first time or you're returning, we hope you find this session really useful. But just some ground rules just before we get into the session. So we will be recording the session and it's going to be available on our YouTube following today's session. So if you want to go back over anything or you think a colleague might find it interesting, then feel free to pop them the link and we'll pop you the link after today's session as well. It's going to be interactive, so I'll ask my questions of our guest as we go through, and if you have any questions crop up too, then please use the chat function to just ask them as you go. If we don't get round to your question for any reason, then we will follow up with an email afterwards as well. So don't worry about that. So without further ado, today we are joined by Samuel Townsend of Independent Healthcare Solutions, and I'm going to pass straight over to him to talk about unveiling the power of private healthcare plans. Welcome, Samuel.
Good afternoon, Sian, and good afternoon to everyone for being here this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. As Sian said, my name is Sam Townsend and I'm here from Independent Healthcare Solutions. We are a medical insurance broker. Essentially, we do what we say on the tin. We're a whole of market healthcare specialist. The connection with Sian is we work exclusively through financial planners. Our aim and goal is to empower yourselves as financial planners and power planners to be able to offer your clients private medical insurance advice without necessarily having to become experts in the area yourself. So what I've got for you this afternoon is 10 relatively short slides, nothing too heavy going, but more just to give us a framework for us to have a chat this afternoon, for me to introduce ourselves as IHCS and to give you a little bit of a background about ourselves and the medical insurance landscape that we find ourselves in at the moment. Obviously, health is a very prominent topic for people at the moment due to perceived arguable problems with the National Health Service, and really what people are trying to look for, in our opinion at the moment, is security and alternative options to the National Health Service, or indeed perhaps to having to take on additional financial exposure themselves in the way of self-funding medical treatment. So what I'm going to do now is move off of our landing page and into the slides, and we'll take it from there. But again, as we go through, if anyone has any questions, please just do send them to the end, and then Sian can run through them with us as we move forwards. So obviously the landing page we've got here, moving forwards, discussion points that we've got this afternoon. So a very brief, and I promise it will be brief, overview of Independent Healthcare Solutions and our services. The advisor service that we offer, that is our branded name for the proposition to the financial planning community. What is private medical insurance? I appreciate a lot of you will know what healthcare is, but for those of you who perhaps don't or haven't come across it much, we'll just have a quick refresh of that as well. And should your clients consider private medical insurance? We all have different treatment options and pathways open to us, one of them being the National Health Service. And it's really a question of whether financial planning should look at incorporating the discussion of private healthcare from a slightly more holistic approach. How much does it cost? Obviously, everything comes at a cost nowadays, and medical insurance is no exception to that. So I wanted to give a little bit of background under that slide as to what a premium consists of and whether it is perhaps value for money. What are your clients' other options? We've briefly touched upon that, but we can go through that in a little bit more detail as we move forward. And what if your clients already have medical insurance? How can we help? What support can we offer, and what solutions might they have available to them? And then after the presentation today, should any of you wish to work with Independent Healthcare Solutions, how we can go about that as well. So Independent Healthcare Solutions, brief overview, brief history. So as it says there, we were established in 1995. We are a whole of market medical insurance broker. We deal with both group and individual medical insurance. Our foundation was as a group healthcare specialist, but through our partnership and relationships with the financial planning community, we do deal with primarily individual clients now as well. Not only are we a UK healthcare broker, but we do also deal with international policies as well. Again, both individual and group. So we particularly deal with a lot of clients in the United Arab Emirates, the United States, and certain areas in Europe as well. So if you have any clients who are residing abroad, where there are possibly prerequisites for medical insurance advice and guidance, we can help navigate those waters as well. Again, we're a completely independent and whole of market broker. We don't have any preferences or affiliations with one insurer over another. We have intentionally steered clear of preferred arrangements with insurers so we can maintain that impartiality and independence that we've got. Now, as a broker, when we were established in 1995, we were very much an off-the-shelf healthcare broker. We had banks of telesales people, 100 calls a day, and about 2010, we made a decision to step away from that element of the industry and really focus more on giving high quality bespoke advice. And at that point, we launched our health advisor service. We are partners of the CISI, supporting partners, and that is how we originally started our relationship with the financial planning community. To date, we have approximately 250 financial planning practices that we work with across the United Kingdom, comprising several thousand individual financial advisors. We don't charge any fees for our services. We do accept commissions, just like any insurance product. So we're not regulated in the same way that you guys as financial planners are. Obviously, you have to charge fees. We still do accept commissions from the providers, but any pricing that we provide to a client would be exactly the same if they obtained it from the insurer directly. So there is no additional cost for us being involved in the process. Hopefully, where we can add value to the process is by giving clients support, knowledge and guidance as to what they are trying to look to achieve and how they go about implementing that solution. We're not here just to help clients implement healthcare policies. We're here to give ongoing support and guidance. So any clients who have claims issues, general queries, we are here throughout the course of the policy year to give support as and when required. But a crucial thing that we do as a broker, when the policy comes up to the anniversary every year, we automatically undertake, on behalf of all of our clients at no cost, a benchmarking exercise where we renegotiate terms with the incumbent insurer and help clients, if appropriate, consider potential other insurers as well. And that is the final point there, an ongoing market review process. Now, our health advisor service, a very brief overview about how the actual proposition works. So we have a number of advisors here at IHCS. You, as financial planners, should you choose to work with us, will have one singular dedicated advisor, myself being one of them, and a few other members of the team as well. So you always have a point person to go to. Your clients will always have a named point of contact within IHCS. Now, the advantage of our proposition to you as financial planners is we are trying to offer a solution that gives you the ability to engage with clients about private medical insurance, but without adopting any of the risk or liability. So any advice that we give, the commercial liability sits entirely with ourselves. There is no exposure to you as the financial planners. The compliance is fully undertaken by ourselves, and should a client implement a policy, there is an introduction fee that we pay to financial planners as well. So again, we are trying to give value to your clients, but we're trying to obviously, if and when appropriate, and if you're happy to accept an introduction fee, we're trying to help generate an additional income source for yourselves as well there. Again, we've covered most of these points. The fact it's a free service. We work with all mainstream UK insurers. There are a number of smaller providers that we do not work with, the names of whom I can't give you at the moment because this is going to be going on YouTube, but principally the insurers we do not work with are providers that we do not class as a full cover insurer. And by that, what we mean is an insurer that covers all inpatient, day patient surgical costs and cancer treatment costs in full. So we only work with mainstream insurers. Again, the service that we give is completely bespoke and individual to every client. We don't have an off-the-shelf product that we give to clients. We have a detailed conversation with them about what they're trying to achieve, and then we give them a bespoke solution to fulfill that criteria. Now, what is medical insurance? Very simply, medical insurance is an insurance contract that gives the beneficiary the ability to obtain private treatment separate to the National Health Service and without having to self-fund care. So running through these very brief bullet points, private medical insurance enables members to access care for acute medical conditions. So by that, what we mean as acute is a condition that is medically rectifiable or where an element of benefit can be achieved. So things like diabetes, asthma, eczema, those being chronic conditions, those sit separate to medical insurance and are not covered under most contracts, but acute medical conditions, hips, knees, heart, cancer, cataracts, all of those would be covered under a policy. Again, private healthcare gives people the ability to bypass the National Health Service and expedite a diagnosis and treatment. And really, that is the key thing there. And we'll come on to these statistics in a few slides. But the national backlog for medical treatment is approximately 7.6 million people. It's forecast to be up to 8 million people by the summer or spring. So we really are in a, without dramatising it, a health crisis in the United Kingdom at the moment, and private medical insurance can help bypass most of those delays that NHS patients are unfortunately subject to. Now, medical insurance, when we think about general protection, life insurance, income protection, is relatively unique in the sense that you are almost guaranteed to use it. Unfortunately, life being what it is, we all have periods of ill health, and really the question that your clients really have to answer, and with your help and assistance and ourselves hopefully, is how, when those events happen, is that going to be dealt with? Is it going to be self-funding, trusting the National Health Service, or indeed passing the liability onto a third party through a medical insurance policy? Now, the penultimate bullet point here, one of the strategic advantages of private medical insurance is it gives additional treatment options. So the general opinion of a lot of people is that any treatment options are available through the National Health Service, and if the treatment option is not there, then there isn't a treatment pathway available. One of the fundamental strategic benefits of healthcare is it opens up different treatment pathways and options to patients that are not available through the National Health Service. So certain types of cancer drugs, additional treatment options for surgical interventions, robotic surgeries is one that's becoming very prominent now, because those resources tend to be extremely expensive in some cases. They are not always available through the NHS. However, with most medical insurance policies, if it is clinically appropriate for a member to have that type of treatment, it will be made available to them. Now, should your clients consider private medical insurance, and this is where I said we would come on to the statistics in a little bit more detail. So currently, 13% of the UK population have private medical insurance, and that percentage is very key when we think about the NHS backlog. So there are approximately 7.6 million patients awaiting treatment. Bear in mind, 13% of the UK population already have medical insurance. So that's 7.6 million people as a percentage of the UK population is actually a lot more starker and concerning figure than most people actually realise. So what we're saying is the people who have private healthcare, the 13% of the population, in most cases will be going through the private health sector, bypassing the NHS. So really that 7.6 million people is really quite a significant number of people that are percentage-wise that are awaiting treatment. Now, the fundamental fact of life is, as we all get older, health issues become more frequent and the cost of treating them becomes a lot more significant. So when we all think back to when we were in our 20s and 30s, health issues were not as pronounced. As we get older, things that often become more frequent as, unfortunately, wear and tear takes its effect on us. Things like hips, knees, heart, cancer, all of those conditions become a lot more prominent. And statistically, 1 in 2 people in the UK will have cancer at some point in their life. So it really does bear thinking about whether medical insurance is something your client should consider, because as the majority of your client base become older, the likelihood and the value that they can derive from a medical insurance policy becomes a lot more. Now, again, the penultimate bullet point here, as the NHS deteriorates, the likelihood of self-funding care becomes a lot higher. Pre-COVID times, the rule of thumb was if you couldn't get treatment on the NHS, you would go private, but it wouldn't be the first solution that you would look to, because the NHS waiting lists, although were relatively high, were not anywhere near as high as what they are at the moment, and truthfully they don't look to be getting any better in the near future, unfortunately. So really the position that we now find ourselves in as a country is, if something goes wrong from a health perspective, how long is it going to take to get treated through the NHS, and is that time really worth waiting for? Is there a better solution in the way of obtaining private treatment? Now, as of November last year, and this was really a statistic that shocked me very significantly, was the NHS aims to start active cancer treatment within 62 days. So, and their target is 85% of patients. So essentially out of every 100 patients, they aim to treat 85 people within a 2-month window. As of November last year, the NHS was only treating 65% of patients. Thereby, there were 35 people out of every 100 that were waiting up for over 2 months for cancer treatment to start. Now, cancer treatment is the one thing that terrifies most people, and quite rightly so. So really, the question here is, if you can guarantee to your clients that there is a private pathway and a solution that will guarantee them expedited cancer care, is that something that is worth investing in? Bear in mind, when we think about cancer treatment, some of the very advanced cancer treatment drugs can cost tens of thousands of pounds. And when we compare that to a premium of a medical insurance policy, a healthcare policy does actually look quite good value in those sort of circumstances. And again, we will come onto the costings of how much a healthcare policy is and the cost of some treatments that are very common for people as they get older. But at this point, I'd just like to highlight a story about a child called Sasha Cohen. Some of you may remember this from 10 years or so ago, and I'm using this example in relation to accessing treatment options that are not available through the National Health Service, really just to try drive home the point a little bit here. Now, Sasha Cohen unfortunately had a terminal brain tumour, and the story as it was at the time, he was in Great Ormond Street and his parents wanted to take him to Prague for some treatment called proton beam therapy. Now, the consultants at Great Ormond Street felt that that treatment wouldn't be beneficial to him and that it would cause him undue stress and deterioration if he was taken abroad for that treatment, so proton beam therapy. The reason this story is hopefully quite memorable for some of you is because there was various European arrest warrants issued for Sasha's family because they took him out of Great Ormond Street in the dead of night and smuggling him out of the country. Now, the reason this story is particularly relevant is Sasha, thankfully, is alive and well today, and he did get to Prague, and the proton beam therapy was one of the contributing factors that saved his life. The relevance here being, at that time, we had no proton beam therapy centres in the United Kingdom. However, private patients with private medical insurance were being sent to Germany for that exact treatment option. So that is a very extreme example of how medical insurance can benefit and give access to other resources, but unfortunately it's a very realistic example as well. So moving on to the costs of medical insurance. So the national average premium for someone in their 60s is approximately £1,000 a year. Now, there are a number of variable factors here that can impact the premium, geographical location being one of them, and someone's exact age. So if you're 69 as opposed to 60, you're going to see a slightly higher premium than someone who is a little bit younger. Now, from a premium perspective, if any of your clients have companies that they can channel private medical insurance through, and that is an option to them. So a premium can be company funded for a individual or a group medical insurance policy. The only thing for you guys to keep in mind is that is a P11D taxable benefit. Now, in regards to what your clients get for £1,000 a year, what we're looking at here is what we would call a core policy. And by that, what we mean is it is a plan that will guarantee expedited inpatient, day patient surgical care. So again, things like heart operations, joint replacements and cataract surgery. It will guarantee CT, PET scans and MRI scans, access to private hospitals and consultants, guaranteed cancer treatment from the point of diagnosis, including treatment options that are not available through the National Health Service, and virtual GP consultations. Now, the thing I need to caveat this here with is a policy does not cover pre-existing medical conditions. So as long as your clients have not had any particular health issues prior to taking out a policy, the elements of this plan will be applicable to them. So what this policy doesn't cover is consultations and diagnostics. The plan can be upgraded to include those, but if we're thinking about the base level of cover, then what a basic policy will give your clients the ability to do is bypass the NHS surgical waiting lists and guarantee a private operation, and it will guarantee full private cancer care from the point of diagnosis. Now, moving on to actually putting that premium of £1,000 a year per member into context, how does that compare if someone is having to self-fund treatment? Well, we've got at the bottom there some very routine costs of fairly common treatments. So the average cancer treatment programme is £50,000. A heart operation, depending on the nature of the heart operation, can be anything from £20,000 or more. Hip replacements can be £13,500, knees £16,000, and cataracts operations anything from £2,800 per eye. So if we're putting that into the context of £1,000 a year premium, even if we use one of the less significant examples, a knee replacement, that's a fairly routine operation for millions of people, well, your clients are going to have to self-fund £1,000 a year or the equivalent of to pay for a knee replacement when they can offset that exposure for £1,000 a year. So really the question is more around here, going back to what people's options are: the NHS, self-funding care, or an insurance policy. It does put that £1,000 premium into context and actually demonstrates what good value medical insurance for certain people can be. Now, going back onto what your clients' other options are, obviously we've alluded and covered this quite heavily as we've gone through the slides so far, but just for the sake of thoroughness, National Health Service, free to all, self-funding treatment. So that is a low-cost option in the short term, but over the longer term, as we've seen in the previous slide, when we think about actually how much the costs of medical interventions are, because we are all very fortunate to have had the National Health Service, we are all very much unaware in a lot of cases of actually how much costs for treatment are. If you ever speak to our American cousins, the first thing they will normally ask about is health care as opposed to pensions. We in the UK have a slightly different viewpoint. The first thing we ask about is pensions, and then medical insurance falls somewhere further down the line. Now, the final point, obviously, reoccurring cost of a premium for a medical insurance policy, but over the longer term, it gives more financial stability. And one of the financial planners I've been working with for a number of years actually made a very interesting point to me prior to Christmas. He was saying, given the current environment of the National Health Service and the likelihood of people having to self-fund treatment, he was saying he views private healthcare as a wealth protection asset to protect people's savings, pensions, and other financial resources, so they don't have to be depleted to fund, in all likelihood, medical treatment that they are going to have to pay for themselves if they are unable or unwilling to wait for the National Health Service. So what if some of your clients already have medical insurance? Again, as we said, 13% of the population already have healthcare. The majority of that is through company-funded healthcare plans. What a lot of people will tend to do when they leave a group healthcare policy is carry on a policy in their own right. So we often come across clients who've got health insurance, not just those who are looking for healthcare for the very first time. Now, the key things that we can help clients do for those who currently have insurance is we can help renegotiate the terms of their current policy. Medical insurance is quite unique in the respect that people are terrified of touching it. People will quite happily change between different car insurers on an annual basis, but because they are unsure of how healthcare policies operate and they're terrified of making a mistake that will ultimately penalise them in the future and reduce the ability to use a policy, what we often find is people will tend to stay with the same insurer for many years and decades in some cases, which will then lead to the premiums that they're paying becoming disproportionate when compared to the equivalent types of cover available from other insurers. So what we do as part of all of our services to group and individual clients is we renegotiate the terms of the current policy, we conduct a benchmarking exercise, we present that feedback to the incumbent insurer, and we use that as a mechanism to help reduce the premiums of the current insurer's policy. Now, again, moving up there, the group scheme leaver option, which I've already alluded to, if any of your clients are leaving a group medical insurance policy, what they will be presented with is a group scheme leaver quote. Those quotations tend to be at a higher base rate cost than other comparable individual products. The thing that most clients will do when they leave a group policy is they will believe that they have to stay with the same insurer for their pre-existing conditions to remain covered. And this is really one of the key things to stress to you this afternoon for those clients who have health insurance. Just like car insurance, you can move between different insurers and you can take your no claims discount scale with you, your NCD level. You can do exactly the same with medical insurance, the common denominator there being the underwriting of the policy. So subject to a few medical questions, your clients can actually transfer from one insurer to another with exactly the same terms and conditions, with exactly the same benefits, but for a much lower premium. And that is one of the key things that most clients are unfortunately unaware of, that leads them to staying with insurers for much longer than they possibly should and paying over a prolonged period of time much more in the way of premiums. Now, the final thing here is we would always suggest, if you are in any doubt or your clients are in any doubt, let us have a conversation with them, because the very worst thing we will come back to them and say is that they've got to stay with the same insurer for whatever the reason may be, and that there's nothing that we can do to help. But in most cases we can, and if nothing else, we can give them and yourselves as financial planners the confidence that they have had an expert eye overlook their circumstances, and what they have got is possibly the best thing for them, or alternatively, that there are potentially better options for them in the wider market. Now, how to move forward with independent healthcare solutions, IHCS, if you want to move forward after our chat this afternoon. So what I would ask is that any of you who are interested in having a slightly broader discussion with myself or the IHCS team, contact Sian and she will put you in touch with us. What we ask all of our financial planning partners to do is complete an introducer agreement with us. That doesn't put you under any obligation. It's really our commitment to you of two things. One, that we will only deal with your clients in the context of private medical insurance, that we will not refer them onto any third parties other than yourselves, and that we will guarantee, when appropriate, to issue you an introduction fee from commissions that we receive. Now, the commission arrangement that we have with most of our financial planners is an initial payment only, so we don't issue trail commission, primarily because the commission that we receive as a broker drops down heavily after the first year. But for individual policies, if your client should take out a plan, you would receive 25% of any commission that IHCS generates. And again, for company policies, a slightly lower percentage at 20%, principally because the commission that we receive for group policies is generally about half of what we receive for an individual policy. Now, the referral process, working on the presumption and hope that some of you decide to move forward with independent healthcare solutions, we would ask that if you have a client who's interested in looking at medical insurance, introducing them to IHCS through an introduction email. So that will be to your dedicated account manager, myself, or one of the other team members in the office. Within 24 hours, we will contact your client to arrange an initial fact find call with them, in that we will discuss if they've got healthcare at the moment, if they don't have it, what their understanding of healthcare is, what they are looking to achieve. We will give them a baseline knowledge of how healthcare operates, what they can expect from a healthcare plan, and following that fact find, we will then undertake a full market review. We aim to issue a formal recommendation to clients within 3 to 5 working days. Generally speaking, we tend to do that within 48 hours, but sometimes it does take a little bit longer. And crucially, what we are looking for in our connection with financial planners is a collaborative relationship. So we're not just asking you to introduce your clients to us and then for us not to keep you updated. So as we go through the review process, we will keep you updated as to what is going on with your client. Should they take out a policy or not, we will equally let you know. And for those clients who do take out a plan, when the renewal comes up every 12 months, we will notify you of that as well. And again, keep you in the picture so you know exactly what is going on with your clients. So from my perspective, that's really it. Medical insurance isn't a particularly complicated topic, but there are lots of nuances that can catch people who are not dealing with it on a regular basis out. So hopefully that is the part of the value that we can bring to you as financial planners, that being giving you a secure, trustworthy option, that where there's no liability, and you can add that additional value to your client relationship. So what I'll do now is I'll pass back across to Sian for any questions that hopefully some of you have put forward as we've been going through this afternoon.
Great, thanks, Samuel. And I mean, I know I've got a few questions of my own as well. So what I'm going to do is, if you just stop sharing your screen there, Samuel, then we can cut to any questions that we come to. So if anybody does have any, then if you just pop them into the chat, then we can come to them as we go, if you have any. I have got a couple of questions. So I say a couple, more than a couple. So as you talked about being an introducer, or, you know,
yes,
for financial planners, we're very used to that. But we also have to make sure that we do some due diligence on introducers. We have to be really careful about who we introduce our clients to, you know, to make sure that we're still being trustworthy, and we're only introducing trustworthy partners to our very valued clients. So if hopefully some of the financial planners that we are talking to do want to work with you, are you happy? Do you have kind of full information about IHCS, like a due diligence pack that you could pass on to anyone as part of that introduction process?
Yes, absolutely. And that is a really key thing, Sian. Thank you for mentioning it. So as part of our introducer agreement process, we will supply any new partners with a full due diligence pack, and any additional resources or information that you need to really be comfortable with who we are as IHCS.
Fabulous. I was hoping you'd say that. And it's something that's become kind of more prevalent in recent years as well. You know, introducers have been around a long time in this profession, but in more recent years, we've had to become a lot more careful about it for the right reasons as well. So another couple of questions from me. Again, if anybody else has got any questions, feel free to pose them. You didn't say this explicitly, but I expect I know the answer. So, you know, if someone makes a claim on their private medical insurance policy, does it have an effect on the premiums like, you know, home insurance claims would do?
Yeah, absolutely. These policies, for the most part, are claims linked policies. So usage of a plan will have a corresponding impact on the premium. The increase is in part reflective of the value of the claim that is made. So more or less than £1,000 is the general benchmark that most insurers operate under. And really, there are three things that will increase the premium each year: medical inflation, age. So there's a small incremental increase in the premium every 12 months, and claims if a claim is made. That being said, again, as part of the service that we offer, we benchmark and review the policies every year with the intention of trying to keep those premiums as suppressed as possible. So if people do make claims, it's not the case that they have to take the increase that they're presented with. We will work with them to try and find a solution to bring the premium down so it's sustainable over the long term. Great,
perfect. We've had a question come in about Americans based in the UK. I mean, it's something as financial planners we have to be particularly clever about, but also there's lots of us that are, you know, experienced enough to handle that as well. So in terms of working here, do you have any restrictions or issues working with American national clients that are resident in the UK?
No, none whatsoever. And that's the same with any nationality that is in the UK. There is no prerequisite of visas or residency requirements for them to take out a UK medical insurance policy. The criteria is, in most cases, that they are registered with a UK GP. That is the only stipulation.
Great, perfect. I mean, I worked a little bit offshore, as you mentioned. You know, you work with UAE clients quite a lot. I know those rules will be different. We don't need to go into those today, but most financial planners that certainly we work with, and most financial planners in the UK, are really looking for UK resident clients normally, but sometimes we do have those overseas connections, so that's really useful. Another question from me, if that's okay. You talked about doing a fact find call, which is terminology that we're very comfortable with because we do them all the time. But would it be useful? Do you, when you work with financial planners, do you ask the financial planner to provide any fact find information to you already, or do you avoid doing that? And what's the kind of, how does that work?
Yeah, so we don't, truthfully. We prefer financial planners, with the greatest respect, to not get involved as much as possible for two reasons. One, to avoid any commercial liability to yourselves as the financial planners, but equally so we can have the conversation from the ground up with the client, so we know exactly what the client's requirements are, what their knowledge base is. We don't like to work on assumptions when dealing with clients' health. We want to make sure we've got all the facts. So some financial planners do like to provide us with addresses and dates of birth, which is absolutely fine and helpful, but whatever you tell us, we will always double check with the clients anyway.
Great, perfect. And following on from what you said earlier, it's going to become more and more prevalent having the need to have private medical insurance. And you gave an example of a 60-year-old in terms of cost, and they will be mostly who we end up dealing with as clients. And I know a lot of the firms that we work with are ending up kind of that's the not necessarily the target age, but that is the majority of clients that we work with. But is it for clients that you work with of a younger age, is it better to start these policies at a younger age, or is there any kind of rhyme or reason if you were giving guidance on that front?
Yeah, so given the current environment that we've got with the National Health Service, we would say it's prudent for anyone to have medical insurance. The younger someone is, the lower the premium. But given the environment that we find ourselves in, everyone really should consider healthcare. Now, that's not to say healthcare is the solution to all ills and that it is the only option, but the younger someone is, the lower the premium, therefore the more achievable and affordable having a healthcare policy is. And the thing that people don't often realise is medical insurance is always seen as a prestigious, expensive solution when it's actually not in a lot of cases. People spend more on pet insurance in our experience than they do insuring themselves. So what we're trying to do is change that dynamic as much as we can to actually try help people think, well, actually we are in a position as a country where realistically we are going to have to self-fund treatment moving forward, because people don't want to have to wait 18 months, 2 years for operations, especially when we're thinking about the financial planning demographic being 60 plus, when people are in retirement, they're wanting to make the most of life. Do they really want to have a debilitating health issue that can be treated on the NHS, but they're going to have to wait 2 years of their retirement before that solution becomes available to them? So the alternative option to that is paying for it yourself. Well, that is certainly something there, but again, that can potentially impact potential retirement planning, depletion of financial resources. So again, healthcare isn't the answer to everything, but the question is there a conversation to be had around it?
Yeah, agreed. And it probably leads into bigger conversations, not necessarily a question for you, but conversations about building in, assumptions about private healthcare costs if self-funded, especially, during working years, but also during retirement years, because as standard in financial planning, we would potentially have assumptions about later life care costs, and assumptions around those tend to be very end of life. 2 years maybe, because that seems to be kind of the average. Very high care costs, we're not talking about those though, and I don't think we generally include ongoing medical costs unless there is a reason to do that, particularly for that particular client. So not a question for you, but I think it leads us on to that kind of, should we be factoring that into clients where they do not have a private medical insurance policy? No question, just leaving it there. Something for us to think about, and maybe something for us to talk about again. So I'm just going to say thanks, Samuel. It's been really useful. I hope everybody else that's joined us have found that really useful as well. And if you are interested in hearing more about Samuel or IHCS and working with them, then just get in contact with me and I'll make an introduction, and I'll pop an email around today as well to give you further information on how to do that. But thank you for joining, and hopefully see you again on our next PlanWorks Power Hour.